We're past 5:30, so whenever you are ready, let me just.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. We call this meeting to order. As we begin our meeting, we know that there was a horrible incident that happened at Maryville High School, so we're going to start with a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you so much, everyone. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Robert, if you could please lead us with that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Board Member Hermes, if you could please lead us with the land acknowledgement.
Happy to do so. Let me just pull it up. Thank you, Board Member Ford. Arizona is home to 22 tribal nations. The Osborne School District is situated on the homelands of the Acamel, O'odham, and Peepash people. The Osborne School District recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands and recognizes they still reside in the city of Phoenix. We recognize their wisdom, impact, and generosity towards us. The Osborne School District is surrounded by the original Salt River canals that were constructed by the ancestral Sonoran Desert people, the Hohokam. These canals created a livelihood for the people and are still in use today. We acknowledge the modern indigenous people that inhabited these areas, as well as their Sonoran Desert ancestors, the Hohokam. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. We are now going to move on to our district celebration. So as we all know, August and May are big celebration months. And so we're super excited to give a big welcome to all the new teachers that we have. So I'll pass the mic to Dr. Robert.
Thank you. And as President Ramos mentioned at the very beginning, in acknowledgement of what happened in Phoenix Union High School District, I just want to recognize Superintendent Thea Andrade and the difficulty that she's experiencing in leading a community through this right now. My resources in Annie are available to her, as I'm sure all of our other elementary school district leaders, and feeder schools. We've got 13 elementary school districts that feed into the Phoenix Union High School District. So although we don't live in the Maryville community, the Maryville community is part of Osborne. And so what the teachers, staff, kids they're experiencing, it's awful. And I really feel for the community. Today is a day of celebration, though, for Osborne. We get to welcome all of our new staff here. You just mentioned, Violetta, how exciting May and August are for us. The last time we were all together in this room, we got to say goodbye to a lot of folks, retirees. We recognize those that have served 20, 25, 30 years here within Osborne. We celebrated our You Make the Difference Award winners. It was such a fabulous night of gathering of community, and we get to do so at the beginning of the year, welcoming our new staff. And so we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order through our schools and take an opportunity for our principals to come up and introduce new members of their school communities, to you governing board members, to you community that are watching, and to you community that are here present with us. So I'll start with Mr. Carranza from Solano School.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Robert, and guests. It is a pleasure and honor to be in front of you as the proud Solano principal, where we are turning vision into action. I am honored to introduce several of our new staff members this year that have joined our team. Each one of them has already started to make a difference in classrooms and in our community. As tonight's introduction, I've asked them, of course, to say their name, the grade level, and so forth. But most importantly, I've asked them to reflect this far what is something that they've learned or appreciated about our Osborne community. So without further ado, I'm going to ask them to join me. We will have Dr. Reginald introduce herself.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Tracy Reginald. I have a PhD in education, but it is workforce education. This is my very first time teaching elementary education. I have kindergarten through second grade special education in the RISE program. And what I learned beginning at Meet the Teacher Night with all of the parents and their kids when they came in. I learned what strong advocates these parents are for their children. And I've also learned how passionate they are about Solano School and about the Osborne School District. It is inspiring to me, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Coach DA, apologize.
Good evening. First year teaching. So far, I'm learning that the community is authentic. I live very close to the school, and I've already seen a lot of the kids outside of the school, and there's a genuine connection that the kids have with you, and that the teachers also have. So I'm really enjoying that. The community is really authentic.
Thank you.
Ms. Dine.
Good evening. My name is Ms. Dine, Yasmin Dine. I teach first grade. I've been in Solano actually for 4 years as a EA, but it's my first year teaching. And I think one thing that I appreciate about Solano and the district is our perseverance. I know Solano has gone through so many changes, but we persevere and we keep in mind that our goal is students at the end of the day.
That's it.
Assistant Principal Witherspoon.
Good evening, board. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Robert. I appreciate you. So, Brandon Witherspoon, I'm actually from Michigan. I've been in Arizona for 9 years. This is my 16th year in education, first year in leadership. The one thing, or a few things that I appreciate so far is everyone being so flexible and welcoming, and I'm hoping to get to know each of you better as well going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, and be ready to hear about the amazing things that are happening at Solano Elementary as we are turning our vision into action.
Thank you, Mr. Carranza. And part of what you're going to see, not only through one example at Solano School, but through examples on other campuses, is transformation of some individuals from one position they held in the district to another. And so moving from an instructional assistant to a teaching position just demonstrates our core value of growth and how much our staff take that growth, not just our students. So thank you to Solano. Moving backwards, I guess I'm at OMS, Osborne Middle School. So welcome, Mrs. Hayes.
Good evening, members of the board, President Ramos, Dr. Robert. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you this evening. Fortunately, we have no brand new teachers to OMS this year, so we have a lot of folks coming back to us, and I'm just really happy with what we started over the last couple of years. I'm really excited for the direction we're going. We do have 2 new staff members to OMS from Solano, though. We have Cecilia Chevalier. She is teaching 7th grade math for us this year. And then Kathy Komselman, she is our psychologist this year. So they come to us with vast amount of experience and expertise, and I'm just thrilled that they'll be joining us this year. So we look forward to doing great things again this year. Thank you.
And moving backwards brings us to Montecito. So Ms. Sotomayor.
Evening, President Ramos, members of the board, and Dr. Robert, Osborne community. I stand before you as the new principal of Montecito Montessori, so one of the new staff. In addition, we have, hopefully Brendan's bringing up, we have 2 new staff members to our Monarch team. We have Miss Magali Santiano. She is our new lead primary teacher in our program. She has been with us, though, for a couple of years and has gone through her own metamorphosis as now the lead teacher in one of our primary classrooms. She exemplifies growth with just her own learning and continued growth with her students. She absolutely promotes inquisitiveness in her classroom and with her students. So it's been really great to be a part of the learning that's going on in there. The other new staff member that we have is Miss Stacy O'Rourke. She is our upper elementary teacher, and she absolutely has exemplified relationships through the relationships and connections she's building with her students, and also with her peers. She has really leaned into her own growth and mentorship to just really connect with us, and we're excited to be continuing to grow. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Taking a step backwards for the alphabet, M brings us to L. So, Mr. White from Longview.
Madam President, board members, thank you all so much for this opportunity to stand before you as the proud principal at Longview Elementary. As you've probably seen, we have a lot of things to celebrate, and our focus this year is excellence is our expectation. And 2 individuals that are here out of my 3 new ones are doing a beautiful job leading us on that quest of excellence is the expectation. First, who is not here is Miss Angel Miracles. She is our Lab 1 self-contained teacher, doing a beautiful job helping get the program up and running at Longview, and we greatly appreciate her, and I hope she is getting some rest this evening because it has been a long couple weeks for her. First, in attendance, I have the wonderful Cecilia Wynn. Miss Wynn, come on up. You'll notice I'm not letting my people talk because I'm afraid they won't say enough about themselves. So Miss Wynn is teaching 3rd grade for us, and talk about someone who has hit the ground running. She has immediately asked beautiful questions, is connecting with her families and her kids, has high expectations for herself and for her children, and the one thing we're continuing to work on is hearing her celebrate her. You are doing an amazing job. We're honored to have you at Longview as one of the teacher residents from our AZTR program. So we're extremely excited. I'm honored to be a part of that. Miss Cece Wynn. Okay, next up we have Yudi Asif. Come on up. She has very little energy. The first human being who I'm like, wow, I think she has more energy than me. Look, she's out. So Yudi has been an amazing addition to Longview as our kindergarten dual language teacher. She brings energy each and every day, love and respect for kids every single day. And again, from the teacher residency program, hitting the ground completely prepared for the field. And we appreciate everything about her, and we just try to keep up with her. So, Yudi. Thank you all so much.
Ms. Fernandez from Encanto School, come on up.
All right, and if I can have all of my new staff come on up and some old. All right. Good evening, President Ramos, members of the board, Superintendent Robert, and community. I'm so honored to be starting my 2nd year here as principal of Encanto. And our theme this year is it's not just a name. Encanto is who we are, and together we create the magic. This year we're bringing the magic for each of our own personal selves. We're bringing the magic for our community. We're bringing the magic for our staff and for each other, and definitely for our students, because that's what it's all about. And so I am ecstatic to introduce our newest road runners and our newest magic makers this year. And so first I'm going to start by introducing Miss Monica Ramos. And I asked each of our new staff members, what is your magic that you bring to Encanto? And Monica teaches resource this year, and Monica brings the magic to Encanto students by making sure all students feel loved and special. And that's definitely true. We also have someone new that has joined us this year as a Strive 3 instructional assistant. She's not here tonight, but Vanessa Pano has also joined us this year. We are also really excited, an up-and-coming, someone who's been a substitute in our district for a very long time is now one of our preschool teachers for a 4-year-old room. And so we are super excited to have Veronica Blanco join us. And Veronica brings the magic to her students by dancing, singing, and playing with them. We also are excited that we retained 2 of our AZTR resident teachers from last year as well. And one of them is not here tonight, but we are excited that Nettie Tarazona is one of our new kinder teachers this year. And Nettie brings the magic each day by pushing her kinders to learn something new every day. And then in attendance tonight, we are so happy to welcome Scott Whaley, 3rd grade teacher and also former AZ. Scott brings the magic to his Encanto students by creating a collaborative environment for all of his students, or all of his road runners. Thank you, Scott. Another teacher that could not join us tonight is Kelsey Sycama. She is a 1st grade teacher at Encanto this year, and she brings the magic each day by supporting each student and their individual needs. And then I would also like to introduce some of our new Arizona Teacher Residency Program teachers. We have 2 that couldn't make it tonight, Angelica Lopez and Shania Taylor. They've really been hitting the ground running with all of their learning. But we do have with us Amanda Groves. I know. Who was an instructional assistant with us last year at Encanto. And Amanda is paired with Kimberly Kripinoff, previously known as Miss Pavlicek. And Amanda brings the magic to her Encanto students by bringing a joyous smile and creating a positive and happy atmosphere. And our next AZTR is Miss Katie June. And Katie is partnered with Miss Ashley Getter in 1st grade, and Katie brings the magic to Encanto students by showing them every day how important, loved, and seen they are. She says, "I feel so lucky to be at Encanto." So, I am beyond excited for this year and all of the magic that Encanto plans to bring this year. And thank you so much for your time. Together, we are creating the magic. And on 3, we all say, 1, 2, 3, beep, beep.
All right, thank you, Roadrunners. That brings us to Clarendon and Mr. Martin.
Hello, everyone. Unfortunately, our two new staff members couldn't be with us today, so I apologize. No fashion show this year, um, but we are very excited to welcome our two new teachers this year. One is Coach Keenan Franklin. He is our new PE coach, and he just moved here from Chicago in July. And so, worst time of the year to move here, but we're very happy to have him with us. Today, a kid was at recess while I was at recess duty, and he was like, "Watch, Mr. Martin, look how fast I can run." I was like, "Okay, let's see, buddy." And so he ran. I was like, "Oh, you're super fast." He's like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna be even faster because Coach Franklin works us hard." and so, and so we're super excited to have him with us. Fun fact about him: he is an award-winning state championship coach back in Illinois, and that's what brought him out to Arizona, where he is coaching for high school as well, which is why he couldn't be here tonight. But we're very excited to have him with us. And then our second person is Sammy Serrano, and he's our 5th grade Spanish dual language teacher. And he was with us last year through the AZTR program, but we're very excited to have him with us as well this year. If you go into his classroom, it's just full of fun and enjoyment, and I love being in his classroom. When he's not in his classroom teaching, you can find him sharing his passion with kids out at recess. He's introduced the 5th grade boys to wiffle ball because he's big into basketball. So he's out there reffing and squatting down as the catcher and everything. And so it's really fun to watch him interacting with the kids and building those relationships as well. So we welcome you out anytime, whether to work out in PE class or to put your Spanish to work in Spanish dual language or any of our classrooms in Cougar Country. You're always welcome. And as always, remember, Cougar pride is nothing to hide. Rawr.
Well, that's our new teachers. Mr. Martin still brought a lot of energy, but it's always fun when he's got a whole crew with him because there's music and all kinds of stuff involved. So I feel like we're a little bit gypped this year, Mr. Martin, by not getting a full show. Before we take a break, just a couple things in terms of celebrations and some guests that we have joining us. Board members, it's always nice to be supported by other board members, whether they're currently serving or formerly serving. So we have formerly serving board member in Creighton School District, Matt Jewett here. We have formerly serving school district member in Washington and currently working in the governor's office, Nikki Whaley, here with us. And we also have a special guest in the back who's going to be joining us again tomorrow. County Superintendent Shelley Boggs is here with us, and she's going to be, you can stand up. And she's also going to be at Clarendon tomorrow because Mr. Martin is being recognized as a Maricopa County exemplary principal. And so this is an award that comes through the county superintendent's office. So we're glad to have Superintendent Boggs here with us tonight, and we'll see her tomorrow. This is the second time that we've had an individual from our district winning the Maricopa County Exemplary Principal Award, and it won't be the last. So we are very excited to have our guests here with us. I think that's it for celebrations. I think we're probably ready for a bit of a break.
Perfect. Thank you so much to the principals. That was really beautiful to see. We'll do a short break. I know there's a lot of pictures to be taken. So 6:05, we'll be back at 6:05. Thank you. All right, we are back from our recess. All right, perfect. The next part of our meeting is the call to the public. We're so lucky today that we get to have a lot of speakers. We're always wanting to hear from our community, and so the first one is going to be Storm Gerlach.
Good evening, President Ramos, members of the Governing Board, and Superintendent Dr. Robert. My name is Storm Gerlach. I am co-president of Osborne Education Association, and tonight you'll be hearing from part of our 2025-2026 leadership team. Others will be introducing themselves this evening, but also at future meetings. We will be sharing the goals, initiatives, and practices we are grounding ourselves in this school year. Before we share specifics, we want to anchor ourselves in some shared understandings. We believe in the power of solidarity and collective strength. We believe in uplifting the voices of our colleagues. We believe in advocating for all employees at Osborne Schools. Our purpose is not just to respond to challenges, but to proactively set intentions that guide our work, advocating for fair working conditions, strengthening effective policies, and building collaboration at every level. By being grounded in shared values and staying present in dialogue, we can ensure every staff member has what they need to do their best work, and every student has the opportunity to flourish. OEA's 3 priorities for this school year are: 1, launching Meet and Confer with Dr. Robert to ensure staff voices are central in shaping district policies. By establishing this process, we can create a designated space to discuss the working conditions of all staff and require mutual collaboration on decisions affecting Osborne employees. 2, lowering the fear of retaliation by strengthening trust and making sure every staff member feels safe to speak up and engage. By naming retaliation as an experience Osborne educators have faced, we can begin to address the problem and create a safer work environment for all. And 3, uplifting staff voices in transparent, collaborative ways so that concerns and solutions are visible and valued. By doing so, we not only strengthen trust across the district, but also ensure that every perspective contributes to the decisions that shape our school. In addition to the priorities mentioned, my colleague will highlight 2 key areas of staff feedback we are actively responding to: the district calendar and the annual leave changes and substitute caps. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, our next speaker is Ms. Vanessa Palma.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa, and I serve as secretary with the Osborne Education Association. On the district calendar, staff raised 2 areas of concern. Before the school year began, staff reached out confused about changes to the first 2 days of school. Originally, the first 2 days were proposed to staff and published on the website as half days. But the week staff returned, it was communicated that they would be full days. Changes to the calendar need to be communicated to staff in a timely manner to allow for staff to prepare. Members also shared feedback about the midweek start and the reduced number of student-free workdays before students arrived. Staff shared that while the soft start and midweek opening were appreciated, most felt rushed and unprepared for the school year. Staff value the idea of a student-free workday after winter break in January. However, they also need the time we had in previous years before school started to prepare classrooms. As a district, we need to continue to gather feedback on this new calendar format so that we can make responsive changes prior to the next school year in a timely and transparent way. The second area of feedback involves annual leave and the substitute budget cap. After policy changes were approved in June, staff received inconsistent and sometimes inaccurate explanations during site meetings. At some schools, employees were told annual leave is a benefit intended as a payout upon leaving the district, contradicting policy. This, combined with substitute caps, has left staff feeling pressured not to take leave and fearful of being blamed if classes are split. Annual leave is a right for active employees, and substitute shortages are a budget issue, not a staff issue. Clear, accurate communication and fair implementation of policy are essential to ensure staff can use their leave without fear. My colleague will close out the OEA update for this evening with the focus on OEA's commitment to strengthening the relationship between OEA and the governing board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Ms. Callison.
My name is, good evening. My name is Kirsten, and I serve as a co-president with the Osborne Education Association. To build trust and transparency, OEA will be seeking to present during a standing agenda item at future board meetings. Last year, the most frequent concern staff shared with us was fear of retaliation for speaking up, asking questions, or engaging in union activity. Naming retaliation is a real experience our colleagues have faced. We can begin by naming retaliation as a real experience our colleagues have faced. We can begin to address the problem directly and create a safer, more supportive working environment for all staff. By having a standing agenda item, we can continue to amplify the voices of our members. We can ensure that experiences of retaliation are no longer endured in silence, but instead are brought forward with the strength of solidarity. We are hopeful that through these efforts, launching Meet and Confer, lowering fear of retaliation, and uplifting staff voices, we can continue building a district culture rooted in respect, collaboration, and solidarity. Thank you for your time and continued partnership. We look forward to working with you throughout the year to make Osborne the best place for both staff and students.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to our next public comment from Tara, Ms. Lau Garcia. And then I believe Ms. Samantha Wright is also going.
If you don't mind, hi. we both work at Longview together in OEA, so we thought we'd go together if that's okay with you. Good evening, and my name is Tara Lau Garcia, and I'm starting my 29th year here in the district, so I've been here a few years. And we are the reps for OEA at Longview, so we thought we would just come and introduce ourselves together. So I am the Longview rep, and this is my co-rep, Sammy.
Hi, good evening. I am Sammy Wright. I am also an OEA rep for Longview. I have been teaching for now 8 years, but in the district for 6. I have found a home in Osborne, so I'm very excited to continue working with you guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have a public comment on summer camp from Ms. Callison.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Callison.
Good evening again. My name is Kirsten Callison, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Solano. This summer, I piloted a STEM camp for Osborne students through a partnership with Arizona Science Center. Thanks to the coordination and support of Ashley at the Science Center and the ADE grant made the ADE grant made the camp completely free for any and all Osborne students and paid for 8 instructors. My role coordinating the camp was not covered, but I believed in what this could mean for our kids and our community, so I moved forward anyway. The camp blended targeted tutoring on our literacy and math platforms with hands-on science experiences. Each day focused on a real-world STEM career. Monday was medical day. Students explored the human body, built model hearts and lungs, and learned how doctors use math and science to save lives. On Tuesday was veterinarian day. Campers classified animals, examined x-rays, and learned how vets care for creatures big and small. Wednesday was Forensic Science Day. Students became detectives, lifting fingerprints, cracking codes, and solving mysteries using real-life forensic science techniques. Thursday was Meteorologist Day. A guest meteorologist from ASU, Kayla McDonald, wowed students with her journey into weather science, and campers experimented with static electricity and even built mini seismographs. Friday was Marine Biologist Day. Students explored ocean zones, creating tsunami simulation, and learned how scientists study sea life. The result was powerful. Students stayed curious and engaged. Parents raved about the experience, and neighbors even asked if this was something we offered every summer. Kids grew academically, but more importantly, they felt inspired to see themselves in STEM. I want to thank those who made this possible outside the classroom. Corey went above and beyond to make sure our kids had food each day, and I'm grateful to the donors who provided snacks to keep the students fueled and focused. I also want to recognize the staff who stood with me. There was a lot of pushback at first, more than no's, before we finally got the yes. But these 8 staff members, Luis Vargas, Desiree Gerard, Kenna Hernandez, Matthew Hernandez, Uche Emma Joy, Scott Whaley, Stephanie Gonzalez-Tena, and Allison Dewey shared my vision and made this camp possible. I owe them so much gratitude. Looking ahead, I believe this should not remain a one-time pilot. I urge the district to prioritize STEM Camp as an initiative for next summer, especially in one of our higher needs schools, so students who primarily walk to school can have access. And finally, I urge the district to connect with staff and value their strengths. See initiatives not as criticisms or competition, but as opportunities to support students. If we want to put kids first and show initiative in our community, projects like this should be welcomed with open arms because the positive impact they have might just make all the difference for a student. I understand I've gone over 3 minutes, but there is a parent letter, and take a look at it because it's really great.
I actually would like to read the letter. This is amazing to hear. So this is a letter from one of the parents. It says, "Hi, Ms. Callison. I wanted to share a quick review of the STEM camp this summer for Osborne students. My son Remy is going into 2nd grade next year and attended the camp this summer. We have nothing but the highest praise for this camp. I am truly almost in shock at how much Remy seemed to enjoy his week with you and how excited he was each day to come home and tell me what he learned. Remy is typically a one-word answer kind of kid when asked about his day. He doesn't typically offer too much, so I was in awe when I picked him up after his first day at science camp. He talked the whole way home and into dinner time about what you guys did that day. That trend continued the rest of the week. Not only did Remy really enjoy camp, I am impressed by the amount he learned. I can tell the kids weren't just doing fun activities for the sake of fun, they were learning. Remy came home, and learning is in all caps. Remy came home telling me all about weather balloons, the size of school buses that measure temperature and pressures and communicate with computers. I've never seen him so excited to tell me he met a real life meteorologist. And then he taught me the history of seismology and how the technology has evolved over the years. He told me how detectives have to gather evidence to solve crimes and explained to me that whole process of taking fingerprints and castings of footprints. I heard about what marine biologists do, fun facts about ocean animals, and so much more. I was so impressed by the amount of knowledge Remy gained in this one short week. This camp really made learning and science fun for him, and he was so into it. Beyond the content of the camp, I was appreciative to have an option close to home in a familiar location with staff I knew and trusted. It was also an added bonus that the camp was free and included meals. I am so grateful the nutrition team was able to work out breakfast and lunch for the kids on top of a wonderful program. I hope this camp can be repeated in the future and will be available for Remy and his peers in coming years. It would be amazing if all Osborne students had an opportunity like this over the summer. I just wanted to share our experience and thank you for a wonderful week." Thank you so much for sharing this. And then I believe, Lisa, we have 3 emails that were sent as part of the call to the public.
Yeah, just as a precursor, it was lovely having Tara and Sammy here introducing themselves as OEA reps at the school, but not everybody was able to be here, so they wrote to you because they wanted to introduce themselves to you. So Lisa's going to read those for you.
So the first email is from Jim Hess. He says, "Hi, my name is Jim Hess, and I am the site representative for OMS. I am pleased to be working with this group of people and looking forward to a great year." The second email is from Jordan Blanton. "Hello, I would like to send in a written call to action for tonight's board meeting. The message is below. Good evening, members of the board and community. My name is Jordan Blanton, and I serve as the communications chair for the Osborne Education Association. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend in person tonight, but I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. In my role, I am committed to ensuring that our educators, staff, and community are informed, empowered, and connected. Clear communication is essential to building strong partnerships, and I look forward to sharing updates, resources, and stories that highlight the important work happening in the Osborne learning community. Thank you for your time and for your continued support of Osborne students and staff. I look forward to working together this year." The last message is from Beth Anderson. "I wanted to submit a call to the public to the governing board. Hi, my name is Beth Anderson. I wasn't able to attend tonight's meeting. However, I wanted to introduce myself as the Clarendon site rep, along with my fellow Osborne Education Association leaders. I'm looking forward to a great school year working beside you all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for that, Lisa. Super great to hear from you all. Super excited to be, working closer together. As we know, it takes all of us to make this school district as great as it is. Do we have any comments from fellow board
Well, we
members?
can't comment, so we
Okay.
just have to move on to the consent.
All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. All right, do I have a motion for this item?
Board member, I'm sorry, Madam President, could I can move to approve, but I just want to take one item off the consent agenda for discussion purposes. I had some questions and some potential concerns related to the item. It is, let's see, is it M? The item related to the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind on the consent agenda. This is a J11.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I'd like to take that off the consent agenda, but with that change, I'd like to move to approve the rest of the items.
Perfect, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So let's go ahead and talk about that item then, J11.
And I can start if, in terms of questions, and I'm familiar with the Auditor General's report related to the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind, and one of those, and it's publicly available report, but one of those items in the report that didn't seem to match up. There were certain overcharges for that the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind was making to district schools for their itinerant support. This is the charges that Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind charged to school districts to participate as part of this proposed contract, kind of annual fees and other charges. And my reading of the Auditor General's report was that these fees were too high and they should be reduced, and that the annual fees, among other things, should be eliminated and then other charges reduced, because they, I think, tripled their fund balances from the funds that they received from school districts in the last 3 years, from the fund balance of $4 million to now over $13 million, according to the Auditor General's report. So as I read the contract, I had concerns, having read the Auditor General's report, that this kind of locks us into a 5-year contract with these higher fees than we should as a district be charged for based on what the services we're getting. So that's my concern. I don't, know everything about the program, certainly, so I just want to have that discussion, potentially table this for some more discussion and looking at this. But in light of the Auditor General's report, just had concerns about what we might be locking ourselves into for 5 years.
Yeah, and thank you. Before any motion, well, I guess you could make a motion to table, but I would like us to have a little bit of discussion time if you're able to kind of hear some of the things. Thank you for getting this to us ahead of time. It allowed our Director of Student Services, Dr. Sarah Boyle, to do make some phone calls, and so I'd like to invite her up to just share the information gathered today and changes that ASDB is in the process of.
Sounds great.
Hello, President Ramos, Dr. Robert, and governing board members.
Sarah, our microphones are super sensitive today, so thank you.
Hello, good evening. So yes, thank you for forwarding that. When we were looking at the agreement, it was pretty much unchanged from the last one that we had with the fees and things. And so when you brought that to our attention, I did call to get more information and kind of look at what our billing was for last year. The way that ASDB works, there's money that we send to them and money they send to us. It goes both ways. And so we have currently 6 students that are being serviced. Last year it was 5. And they get their vision and hearing services. If students are in their primary eligibility of vision and hearing, what happens is our ADM actually goes to ASDB, and then we bill them back later, like on a voucher, and we get $1,500 back per student. If the student has like a secondary of HI or VI for hearing and vision, then what happens is we get the ADM, and then they charge us for the services. So on that part of it, I wanted to let you know that when I did call, I asked and I said, hey, our governing board member has this concern. So I asked them about, the charges and if they're going to be changing it all. And they said that there's a communication coming out from Jason Lilly, who is their director of itinerant services at ASDB. It's coming out next week. So they gave me a verbal preview of it because she didn't have a copy. And she said that maybe it was in light of that Auditor General report, I don't know, that they're actually changing the reimbursement from $1,500 to $7,500. So what goes back to the districts is $7,500 now instead of $1,500. What you'll see in the agreement that you have is that change is not there yet because it's coming out next week. But they said that, so I spoke to the director, I spoke to the business services, and I spoke to the director of business services, and she said that she didn't have anything to send me right now for tonight, because I told her, like, I need it for tonight. And so she just let them know that it's coming out next week, and that the Auditor General and ADE has approved the new fee schedule and what they're paying back. So for example, with that part of it, this last year we invoiced them back for students, and we got we got $7,383 back. If it was the fee that, or the amount that we would be billing them now, we would have gotten closer to $37,000. So this next year, they're gonna be putting much more back to the districts than they were before. The other part about the $13 million, they said there were expenditures that were not showing in there that ended up after, I guess, that printed or something. She said that it was actually closer to $9 to $10 million. So I can try to get something more in writing on that because that was all verbal today on the phone. But wanted to give you that.
And that's kind of my concern. It was about, that's great news, by the way. That's wonderful. It's not reflected in the agreement that we read. So I'd like to table it so we can bring it back with that update. That's great news. So we can look at that, the actual numbers. And because, we have to, as a district, we have to educate. It's wonderful to have kids there. And getting these itinerant services is important, but they're taking really currently the lion's share of the funding and not, leaving us much to do all the other wonderful things that we do for all of our kids and busing and, teaching and all the rest of the day. So that's good news. And, if the rest of the board's agreeable, I'd like to table it so we can bring it back with that update and review it with
Can
those
I add
new
one more
numbers.
thing to that
Please.
too? So they asked, it doesn't technically, I guess, expire until November. They were asking us to do it to go through their November board meeting. So when we approve it, then it goes to theirs, then they approve it, because we do have students being serviced right now. The other thing, I don't know if it's an option to approve and then do an addendum when the letter comes through. The only reason I ask is because not only for the students being serviced, but, and I just lost my train of thought. There was another piece in there. We were, well, I guess more for the students that are being there, but then also, there was another piece. Colleen and I were just talking about it. No. Oh, okay. The other thing is I did look up in our vendors because I tried to compare costs. I looked up 10 of our contracted vendors, and only one even had a possibility of having an HIVI teacher. So they're extremely hard to get. So I just don't want to, even sometimes they don't have all the staff and they have to owe the minutes back to us. So it's just extremely hard. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's other folks like FBCs out there. They know that provide services and other options that are out there, as I understand, are good services. I don't know them super well.
Yes, we have 2 students at FBC.
Okay, that's great. And personally, I'm not comfortable approving something that has incorrect numbers in it. And, in the future, I'd love to get contracts before the beginning of the school year for this reason. But I know things happen.
Is there anything I can get from them that would help? I know the letter will help next week.
I think that letter should suffice. As board members, you can feel free to chime in. Really important to think about continuity of services for our students. We all want that. Knowing that the contract ends in November, we do have time for this, but we just need to make sure that we're on top of it. So as soon as we can get that information from ASDB, we can get that to you ahead of time so that you have review. If there's further concern or question, like way before, we'll get this to you as soon as we have it, so that if we have to start making other plans. But the way things work with them, they have governing board meetings too. So they take our approvals, they bring that to their board, that gets approved, and then they can provide services. And they can't provide, they shouldn't be providing services before they have that contract approved, right? So their next board meeting is in September. That would allow for, and then they would have another one in October prior to that November expiration. So we do have time to bring this back on next month's consent agenda. You'll have the information probably a good 3 weeks ahead of time for previewing it, getting any questions. We should be able to bring this on our next consent agenda, hopefully for passage to be able to get on their October meeting, and our students won't have any lapse of services.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do we need to make a motion to table?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Move to table.
Do we have a second? All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. We will be tabling that item for the September agenda. All right. Perfect. Next, we have
I have
a.
one question on the,
Mhm.
just to make sure we're on the same page. For the out-of-state travel, we said we would figure out kind of the details
Oh.
of who's going. Is anyone interested in that one?
No.
I am. Okay. So I'll be going.
So that was approved, and thank you, Eric, for bringing that to for our attention, because that had a specific line that was not, names weren't in there. I think we should actually go back and approve that singular item. I know we approved the consent agenda, we approved the travel, but the way the motion was written on the board page, it was for all members to go on the travel, and it said that we'd specify the members. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that we should, by name.
All right. Perfect. So.
And it was for the entire board and for the superintendent. I'd like to attend with Violetta. So if we make this motion, then I would make the motion with individuals' names.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for catching that. All right. So then do we have a motion to approve item N on the consent agenda, stating that it would be out-of-state travel for governing board member Ramos, myself, and Superintendent Robert?
I'll move.
I'll move to approve out-of-state travel for President Ramos and Dr. Robert to the 2026 NSBA Advocacy and Equity Institute in Washington, D.C.
I'll second.
Perfect. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right.
Thank you so much. Probably a little out of order there, but we'll get it. It's all straight.
Just make sure you bring a thick jacket.
Yes.
All right. Now we are moving on to our board presentation. Dr. Robert?
Thank you so much. So we wanted to give you guys an update on where we were. And Brendan, this is where you can kind of help me out. We're going to take a look at the work that we started last year on the Portrait of a Learner. And so I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a walkthrough of the stages that we've gone through in creating an Osborne School District Portrait of a Learner. It started very much like our strategic plan work did back in 2019 with, you can go on ahead and move on to the next slide. So we're gonna, before I actually get into some of the details, we're gonna start with a quick 3.5-minute video that those of you that may have attended any of those sessions would have seen. But this is a school district that went through, they call it Portrait of a Graduate, because this is actually from a pre-K through 12 district, so their students graduate. We don't graduate students from Osborne School District, so we are referring to ours as a Portrait of a Learner. This is a district that went through this initiative 10 years ago. And so as you hear the amazing language being used by students, just keep in mind, this isn't at launch. This is after 10 years of developing an idea, working through what it means to teachers, what it means to students, and then hearing the language that students are able to when they talk about their skill set and how they go about approaching learning. So let's take about 3.5 minutes for this video.
Portrait of a Graduate, it's just a bunch of different life skills, like being a collaborator, being able to work with someone, have the ability to be able to talk to someone, and being an ethical and global citizen, being kind and knowing about our environment and the rest of the world, and being a creative and critical thinker, like use it in your bubblegum brain, like Miss Kelleher likes to say, and being goal-directed and resilient, always working hard and persevering. So Portrait of a Graduate skills are really important, and they're like life skills.
I feel like it's like a life skill, like things that you use regularly in life that'll help you become a better person and be able to interact with other people in a way that makes you feel comfortable and it makes them feel comfortable, which I feel like is very important.
For 10 years, FCPS has had a focus on Portrait of a Graduate. Teachers truly had to make a shift in their instruction in order to make these skills really a part of their instruction and a part of their everyday. If we think about what our teachers are doing with their students, they had to start to really provide kids opportunities to practice these skills. What does that look like?
In our classroom, we do like a lot of activities with groups of people, so we can use our POG collaborator and communicator skills to work together and make something awesome.
Fun to have ideas from different perspectives of different people.
And then when you have an idea, maybe people will like adjust it to make it better, or like to make it easier to do it.
There's a big shift going from Portrait of a Graduate now to Portrait of a Graduate presentations of learning, right? We're no longer just teaching the kids the skills and making sure they're using them. We're giving them an opportunity to reflect on these skills, to be able to say, I grew, I can prove it, this is why it matters. We wanted to make sure that these POG skills become not just teacher known, but student owned. So yes, teachers know, sure, I'm giving my kids a chance to be creative and critical thinkers, or sure, I'm giving them chances to collaborate and communicate, right? But do the students know it? And that's where the power is.
It's important for me to reflect on getting better, because if you don't reflect, then you're not going to go anywhere, and you're just going to keep doing it, but you'll never find out where you are and like where you stand and how you can improve.
We're like honing in on like how are we growing with these skills, like what's changing over the years, how did we start as a communicator, and now towards the end of high school, like how have we grown and done stuff with that skill that we couldn't have done like at the beginning of high school.
It's really important for students to talk about their growth because this helps them kind of be able to see how they grew as a person in general instead of just how they grew as a student.
If I hadn't learned about Portrait of a Graduate, I probably would have grown up still pretty quiet, like I was when I was younger. Like I wouldn't have shared my opinions.
If there's an unfair law, you could speak up with Portrait of a Graduate skills and say what you can improve about that law, and it could change.
As we go to college, I think having these skills is like so important because we'll be on our own, and these skills have taught us how to like hold ourselves accountable and get through work on our own, because we won't have the same kind of relationship that we have with teachers, with them helping us and guiding us through it in the future. And so being able to have all these skills under our belts, it's really just going to help open so many more doors that could have been closed had we not been doing this for so many years.
Right, so there's a bit of a journey that a school district had. This idea of a portrait of a learner, portrait of a graduate is something that you'll see in many school districts. From elementary through high school districts, union, or I should say unified school districts. You've even seen certain states developing their idea of what does it mean to be as, what is the portrait of a graduate in the state of Kentucky, let's say. So looking at doing this work for ourselves here within Osborne. On to the next slide, Brendan. So what's our journey looked like through this so far? This started last year, and we had some community forums on 5 different campuses. We combined Encanto Clarendon together. So when I say 5, not ignoring the fact that we've got 6 schools, had 2 communities coming together. Not all of them had robust participation. So we had one that didn't have any show. But we started with bringing community together to talk about this. And some of you guys were able to make, how many of you guys made one of those sessions? I think everybody made a session. So we had those sessions, and you saw that video if you were at that session. We also had sessions with each of our 6 staff. So myself, Abby, Colleen, Felipe, we went around to the campuses and we walked through this idea. And I'm going to take you through a little bit, not all the way through. We're not going to do the work, but just want to flash through the work that we did. We also, after going to each of the campuses, we brought a district office team. So for those that work here within this building, we came together and did the same thing. Brendan, can you open up that back and then, yeah, open up the presentation. So just real quickly what that session looked like. This is going to be a flash through, Brendan. So we talked about who we are as a district. Keep going. Keep going. We walked through, this is launching our strategic planning work, and we wanted to start with our kids. Who are our kids and how are we being responsive to them by recognizing who they are? So rather than just getting into the data, we wanted to start with a child focus and defining who, what our hopes and aspirations are for our students before even looking at the data. But we walked through what our strategic plan process was last time. We developed a mission, vision, values, had our commitment areas, our measurements of success. Keep flipping through, Brendan. Keep going, keep going. And then we started to look at this idea of a portrait of a learner. So there were some exercises that parents, community members, that you as staff members went through. Keep going. So we started to work in pairs, thinking about the skills, qualities, and experiences that we wished for our students, that they would have as a result of going through Osborne schools in the years. Keep going. We took those pairs and came together in groups of 4, and then those groups of 4, they had their long lists of skills, experiences, and we had them whittle it down, and they created a chart that had their top 3 skills, top 3 experiences, top 3 qualities. Keep going. And then we posted those up. Everybody in the room got to walk around, and you got 4. I think you got 4. Did you guys get 4 stickers? You took 4 stickers and put them by priority areas. So we got to start seeing some grouping happening of, ooh, these are really standing out as areas for us. Then we had them go back to their original partners and look at those things, see some of the grouping. Ooh, look, that's got like 10 people that wanted, maybe that's gonna actually develop into something. So they took that one of those ideas from the chart, and they wrote a definition for it. So you heard them talk about like communicator. So let's say communicator came up. They wrote a definition for what that would look like. We did this work with our strategic plan when we came up with our core values. All of our teachers, all of our staff experienced this long list of values, and we chose some, and then we worked on defining what those words meant. So we went through and we just got a boatload of data from parents, community members, all of our staff at schools, and here within the district office. Okay, you can go forward. This is an example of what a portrait of a learner looked like from another district. Moving forward, from another district, and then we were left, okay, what's our portrait of a learner gonna look like? Pull on out of that, Brendan. You can jump out of that presentation. Yeah. Getting back into our journey. Okay, so that's the work that we did last year. I want to share with you what some of the data looked like. So, step 1, campus by campus, we collected data. Go into that, Brendan. I'm not going to give you time to read all of this, but zoom in a little bit. After every single session was done, I collected all the materials and I typed it up. And so, that's one table. You see how they have the skills, qualities, experiences up there? That was there, and then you see some numbers. That's when people went and put their stickers by, and so you could start seeing some grouping happening. Scroll down. Keep going. There was a lot of work. Now you start seeing, and now scroll here. All of those definitions. So somebody chose resilience, and they wrote a definition for that. Somebody independent, they wrote a definition for it, right? Scroll all the way back to the beginning, Brendan. So that is all the data that was collected from Montecito, from parents, from staff. If you don't even have to stop so we can read it, Brendan, just scroll, 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 scroll. School by school by school. Collected all of this data. All right? Pop on out of that, Brendan. So that was the campus by campus. There was a chart, and then there were definitions. I broke those out separate. So go into portrait charts. This is just those charts with the attributes. So how do we get the attributes out of this? Scroll, 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 scroll. Every single chart from every single campus. Collected data. Jump out. Definitions. Every single definition that was come up with, every school from parents to staff, scroll, 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 scroll. Every single definition. All right? Pop out. So don't click in on it yet. So we've got tons of data now, right? And so an analysis, kind of going through that data, like what is coming together? What words, like that word, that's the same as this word over there, right? It's got the same meaning. So go on ahead and click into this. And zoom in tight, or zoom in on it. And so we wound up with certain clustering of what we will call the attributes of a portrait of a learner. So 5 big attributes came out of this. Critical thinker, a resilient learner, an empowered communicator, an empathetic advocate, and a global contributor. And if you kind of look at scroll up to the top, Brendan, you can kind of see like, okay, these things were cited, many times, critical thinker, that was like big picture thinking or creative thinking or whatever. So clustering of ideas. Scroll down some more. Go down to the bottom of this one, Brendan. I know you guys want to read every word, but we'll be here forever. So major notable frequencies that are happening, like things that are jumping out. Okay? So there are these 5 attributes. Okay, pull out of that one, Brendan. All right, so don't click in this one yet, because I know how it's going to be. As soon as I click in, you're not listening to me anymore. You're reading. I know adults. I know adults. Yeah, what are you talking about? So the next step with this is doing some, you don't wordsmith with 50 people in a room. So when we did the work with our core values and the definitions, those definitions were actually written by our consultant last time. She got all of this data, she analyzed it, she looked for words that were popping out, and she used the language that we gave us. So there were different exercises that she had. We had this whole thing where we did like a Pixar script, where we were like doing, if Osborne School District were like a Pixar movie, but she had it coded specifically so that when you talked about this, it signified one thing. The next part of it signified something else. So there was a method to the madness of getting to those core values and definitions. So when you read them, all of our collective thinking, the hundreds of people that were there, their words were part of coming up with what, number one, the core values was like majority clustered towards this. And then the definitions were pulled from the essence of the language that was given. So on our admin retreat, we took all of this data and we had these 5 attributes. And so we worked on this first shot of, let's try and define each of these words, but you're not doing it as Colleen or Jeff or Kim or Felipe. You're doing it using the language that was given to you by everyone in Osborne that contributed to this. So go on ahead and click on number 1. And zoom into that first take. So some proposed definitions for each of these. I'll let you read through this first one. I'm going to give you 45 seconds with each one to read through them, just so you can see the language and what it looks like. So just leave that there, Brendan, for a second. And then when I say scroll, you can go down to the next one. But we'll give you 45 seconds to read that one. Okay, scroll to the next 2. Go on ahead and scroll more. Right there. I'll give you a full minute to read this one, because that's the end. Okay, so you've got a lot of language here. That's a reflection of the language of Osborne. But like I said, how you don't do wordsmithing with 50 people, you don't even do wordsmithing with 20 people. Each one of these was a small group of like 3 or 4 people working on a definition. So they all sound different. You don't have a cohesive vision when all of these definitions sound so different. When one of them says, an empathetic advocate is someone who blank. And another one that says, with courage and integrity, students confidently share ideas. Like, you've got great words, but it'd be nice if each one of these had like the same stem. An empowered communicator is. An empathetic advocate is. A global contributor is. All right. So I thanked my admin team for that work that they had done on our retreat, and then we just thought about it, and then took all of those, and I said, okay, we've got these different stems. Let's write them all over with one of the stems, and then write them all over with the other stem. Write them all with this next stem. So click into the take 2. So this one's going to have, okay, what would it sound like if we use the stem, a resilient learner blanks? So the next word after saying this is what it is, then a verb. A critical learner blanks. An empowered communicator blanks. An empathetic advocate blanks, right? So they all feel the same. A couple things happened when this work was done. Number one, you feel some cohesion in the way it's presented, and it got less wordy, got a little bit more concise with language. Scroll down to the third set, Brendan. This set was the same things, but using the model of the one that just had the word, the critical attribute, broken out. Critical thinker. Now start defining it with like the verb. Instead of saying a critical thinker blanks, just approaches problems with curiosity, this, so using that stem. So that's what it's like using a different stem. Scroll down to the next one. This is a set using a blank does this. So a resilient learner does these things. An empowered communicator does these things. Again, they all have the same stem, but using that wonderful flowery language that all of Osborne's staff gave us. Scroll down to the, or I think that was it. So we looked at each of those and thought, okay, which one of those stems sounds the best? But then let's refine that a little bit more. Let's choose which stem sounds good, and let's make sure that we're not getting so wordy, because the whole point of this, remember that video? Kids talking about it and using the language of that reflection of the portrait of a graduate. We want kids to be able to use this language. We want teachers to be able to use this language. We want to be able to use this language. So let's start putting it just in the same way that we know our core values, and we've got some pretty simple definitions that we know in Osborne. When we talk about joy, it means this. And we've got some pretty simple language. So let me just bring you up to date now with the current state of where it's sitting after all these different sets. This is just kind of where we lie right now. This is not a finished product that's going anywhere. This is where we are right now. So I'll give you a quiet minute and a half to read through these 5. I didn't go to every school. I went to a few. I was at Longview. I was at Encanto's staff. I don't remember how many of them I did, but like I said, Colleen and Felipe and Abby and I kind of tag teamed on this. But I don't know. I'm not sure what your feeling is, Sammy and Tara, but do you feel some of what you had? Well, I'm not going to put you on the spot. But hopefully some of what you guys talked about in the room at Longview, you can feel that in here. Hopefully Storm and Vanessa and Kirsten, when at Encanto, you see reflected some of that language. We really tried to make sure that we were using the language that people gave us, not us creating it. It's not the teams, it was everyone's. That's the current state of it. So what do you do with this now? So you can pull out of there, Brendan. So that's what one district, like I showed you before, one districts. Go on, Brendan. What another districts look like? Click. We still don't have, like, what do we do from there? So now I just kind of have some identified next steps. I promise I'm almost done presenting. First, coming up with some type of visual and graphic representation. For those of you that are here that came to this meeting, you hadn't seen this. This hasn't gone to staffs yet. So we want to share this information with them. But you don't just take something like this and say, okay, that's it, have fun with it. We have to be thoughtful about, how do we roll this out? How do we roll it out to teachers? Got to roll it out to teachers before you roll it out to students, because this is going to be a tool that teachers are using for guiding students' learning, right? So we're going to be thoughtful about what a rollout process looks and involving voices in how this rollout should look. So that's not just a me determination of what that looks like. But I think that's my last slide, Brendan. Is it? Okay. So that's kind of, I wanted to bring you through the process and how we got to where we are right now. So I open it up to you for any thoughts that you have about the process or current state of the product.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns?
So what's the timing in terms of next steps? What should we be expecting for the next few months coming up?
Yeah. So for starters, the graphic part, we'll come up with some beautiful way of presenting this in terms of visuals and graphics. But in terms of the rollout, this is not something that we want to rush getting this into everyone. I want to take this and bring it around to staffs and see how it resonates, first of all, in terms of getting that feel for process and also the language. We are not going to go through a process of taking this back out. Like when we had our core values and those definitions, the person that we contracted with brought it to us and we heard the language and there was some immediate feedback, but that didn't get taken to where, okay, 500 people now are looking at that and we're starting from scratch and re-wordsmithing. But a couple ideas, big ideas that may have been brought out, like, hey, this part of that really didn't have a representative feel. We make some changes to that. So final wordsmithing on, in terms of the message. But in terms of rollout, this is where I really want to work with our team on first getting it into, so I've got my admin team meeting coming up. We'll be talking a little bit about how we're going to bring this out to campuses and getting it in front of everyone's eyes and getting their initial thoughts in the same way that I'm getting yours. And I would hope that in this, first quarter to half of the year that we're getting to a point where we are rolling this out, not only to teachers, but also, when I think about, I'm not going to promise you, like, I don't want to say what the rollout looks and feels like, but when I think about thinking maps, you don't get your thinking maps and just say to the class, hey, here go 8 thinking maps. Let's use these. We roll them out and just get used to using the language around one at a time, building that in so that it's natural, it's embedded. It may just be starting off with rolling out, resilient learner. And as we're doing difficult things like, oh, you can do this, as a resilient learner, we blank. Using that language, that type of soft rollout may even precede like the graphic visualization. I'm not sure, but it's something that will be coming out in the year. But this is where I need the input of, I don't get the pleasure of being in front of kids and teaching them every day. So this is where I need teacher input. This is where I need teaching and learning input on what rollout can look and feel like. So that was a rambled answer to your simple question, Ed.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Dr. Herbert. We will move on to, we have the administrative reports. Thank you all for submitting those. It's always great to see what happens at every school. Anybody have any comments on those? I mean, I'm just super grateful to be able to see what happens at every school. All right, cool. So we'll move on to the next agenda item. We are up at our action items now. All right, so first is our action item A, approval of revised FY26 budget.
And as Ms. McCabe comes up, just a precursor to discussions of the budget. We all know that our budget is student count driven, right? It's enrollment driven. And as I've been able to update you, we are down in terms of the number of students. So we're feeling that impact right now, knowing that we're down. A couple things of what that, this item in particular is about the revision of the 25-26 budget. And so I'm going to let Colleen get into presenting that and not necessarily go into details on the enrollment impact. She's got some numbers that she can share. But, one thing that you look at is when numbers are down, it's going to have an impact on us financially, right? And so the first thing that looking at, from a business perspective is, number one, do we have a plan and do we have to take big steps? Step one, when you see a budget shortfall, is knowing that 90+% of your budget is people, is in the employees in the district. As people are wondering, like, we're short students, what does that mean for us? We can rest assured in the fact that we're not seeing a need for a RIF coming up. So we will not be bringing a reduction in force this year immediately to deal with this impact. But we've got to do something, right? The process that we normally take in the beginning of the year is we look at that 10-day enrollment. And we recognize, we're able to see patterns and see, here go some classes that are really small in size. We can't continue to have a class this small. It's not financially sustainable. And then we look at, wow, that class size is enormous. We've always had that sense and that there needs to be some kind of movement. If you've got a class of 11 here and you've got a grade level at another school that's got 36 and 38 in those two classrooms, and those are your two big things, you recognize we can close here and move a staff member there. It's very simple. The one thing that we do have right now, we do have those pockets where we can identify and look and say, that's looking low at a grade level, you know, at this school, and recognize those 5 or 6 places, you know, where that exists. But we don't have any instance where we look at a grade level and say, that is huge. Like our divisor is 25 and there's 37 kids in a classroom and we need to make a movement now. So normally we will make rapid adjustment because that's unsustainable. Like we saw that at one school with like first graders last year. Like we cannot continue within the next few days. We need to make that shift happen. So we're in the conversations about budget savings and how we can do these things, but we're not at the point of needing to rush that process where it needs to be done right after the first 2 weeks of school. So that's kind of where we're sitting in terms of recognizing that we have a budget shortfall because of decreased enrollment. We're not going to see a reduction in force happen, but we are looking internally at things that we can do with positions and how we can alleviate the impact on the budget. And so with that intro, I'll turn it over to Colleen.
Thank you. So kind of common theme, almost ironic, is the timing of the theme for my presentation tonight, because we were originally planning to bring a budget revision to the board in August, which we typically don't do. And I think if you remember in the June meeting when we looked at proposing the budget, and the July meeting when we looked at adopting the budget, kind of foreshadowed we're going to do this again in a month because we need to transition from the preliminary budget forms that we used to propose and adopt our budget before the state had finalized the state budget, because the timing of the state legislature and their season and coming to an agreed upon state budget, we needed to move forward ahead of them and propose and then adopt our budget using preliminary forms. You can only have those preliminary forms in place for a certain amount of time before you need to transition then your adopted budget worksheets for the year to the final state approved budget worksheet forms. And so that's what the intent of tonight's meeting was to do. Timing-wise, again, was the revision that's in front of you tonight does not reflect that enrollment decline because of the timing of when the packets go out. And so timing of putting the budget together, transitioning to the final forms, and then getting the information to the packet to prepare that to go out, we were only in like day 3 of school at that point and didn't have even a first full week, 5 days of physical counts, to be able to really put together, this is what we want to then modify or revise this first revision to account for the decline. Really wanting, like Dr. Robert mentioned, our process has usually been, let's go through those first 10 days. In previous years, we have seen even an increase in kids showing up in week 2 in Osborne. And so, again, it's a timing thing where this revision does not reflect that decline that we know we're unfortunately experiencing right now at all. So this is pretty much an as-is. This is what you saw in July, what we adopted. I've highlighted the one line on there that is a change from the adopted. There's actually 3 items. 2 of them are not accounted for here. There were 3 items in that final state budget that was passed by the legislature that we will be revising into our budget throughout the course of this year. This is just showing the first of those 3 items. So this first item is what we had referred to in the past as Prop 123, the $75 million allocation. So the legislature approved what they're now referring to it as an additional state aid supplement. And the way they're referring to it is one time, right? No longer that continuation, counting on it year over year. So one-time state aid supplement of that, we had already had kind of budgeted. You'll see in that first 2 columns there when we look at FY24 and then FY25, right around that $148,000 number And so it's bringing that back in this revision based on that final state-approved budget. The next two items I would expect to bring to you at our next revision, which we will do in December, to account for the decline in enrollment. And then by then, all of the way ADE reviews and vets, right? Each district's enrollment in ADM is that we sync, we upload our student data counts into the AZEDS portal. They run integrity every night. We process and clean up integrity errors. And so by that December revision, we'll have a pretty good idea of this was our 40th day, and we're going to be about 15, 20 days out from 100th day, and we'll have a pretty good idea of what that December revision will look like. With that, we will add in those other two items. I anticipate, just based on some rough numbers right now, of what our percentage of the district's enrollment is compared to the overall state's enrollment statewide, I would expect about another 120,000 from those other two lines, total combined, 120,000. So not a whole lot. Overall, that's the change that was made from adopted to this first revision. Looking at some of the other pieces, I just kind of want to hit on a couple questions that you may have circling back to the decline. So we are going through the process, as Dr. Robert said, and we're working through that. But want to make sure that we're really clear that we're going to be able to honor contracts that the district has issued. We're not looking at the need to reduce. But I need the board to be aware that the reason we're able to do that is because we're tapping into some of that carry forward that we were projecting from FY25 into FY26. Not quite sure yet what that total that we're going to need to tap into is. We've got to go through all of those other decisions and conversations that need to happen, but we will be bringing that back to the board and sharing with you soon what that looks like and how much we're going to be tapping into. To give you a rough idea right now, it's hard to say because we don't have all the weighted student counts, right? So we're just looking at total students compared to total students, and then I'm taking preschool and kindergarten at half, knowing that the state only funds them at 0.5 of an ADM, and so I'm doing all of that, but I haven't been able to really reconcile that to ADE after it's been ran through integrity through AZEDS, and then all of those additional supplemental weights that get added on, right? We talk a lot about those Group B weights, ELL learners, K-3 learners, special education students, and so we might actually say, okay, well, we're down 85 to 100 kids right now, but maybe we're not down as that flows through weights. Maybe we're actually gaining in some of those other sub-pops, or maybe we aren't. And so it can be compounded, and sometimes those sub-pops can help you not feel that drop in the weighted counts as much. And so I don't know any of those details yet until we really get through that reconciliation process and cleaning out integrity errors with AD. But I do want to give you just like a rough ballpark number. Right now, if we're looking at between 85 to 100 kids, that is a budgetary impact of about 800 to 900,000 in current year budget. And that's just looking at our maintenance and operations budget. There are other budgets that are affected, but they're affected in future years that aren't on current year funding. So when we think about like classroom site fund, Prop 301, district additional assistance, capital funds, those are still based on prior year student counts. So the decline this year will affect next year's in those funds. So, but there will be more details to come at a future meeting. We will definitely get into more details at the next revision in December. And I'm sure Dr. Robert will be sharing more and keeping you updated as we go through this process that we typically do this time of the year. But just to give you a kind of a rough ballpark of what this means to us in a total number right now.
Yeah, and most certainly, you're not going to have to wait until the September meeting for an update. As we're meeting as a team and kind of thinking through this process, you're going to be my thought partners, and I'll be sharing information with you.
All right, thank you so much for the information. Do we have any questions?
I just want to say, I think you explained that very well. I think that's a really good job on that. And 100% agree. I've seen too many times kind of in Arizona now, it's the regular education population is going down, but then you might have your special education where the weights are going up. And so sometimes those can wash out, even though if you're just talking, total number of belly buttons in school, that has decreased, but that weight can increase for that
And we're feeling
well.
that.
Yes, and so that's been a common thing I've seen in Arizona. So that'll be good. 800,000 to 900,000. I appreciate the number. It's pretty scary when the carry forward was, I think, 1.8 million. So you're looking at about half of that. So I know it's still a little early, but we can, you know, it's kind of one of those things we're probably looking at all things on the table. Maybe hiring freeze or something like that could be a possibility, but we'll get there for that one. I don't want to get too far ahead, but yeah, that's pretty scary on that. We got a little bit of DAA we could move over, but that's not going to make up 900,000 on that. But yeah, just appreciate the update and keep us updated on that.
Colleen, how much is the? I seem to recall from a prior meeting that there is some more DAA that we can move over. Like I seem to have in my head 170,000. Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm also
it's
looking
less
at it.
than 200,000.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at it 167. I'd love to see us do that. I mean, I know it's, and I know we're going to tap into the carryover, and I think I'm comfortable with that. I think we're good stewards here, but I'm out there on the, on the campuses, and I see how hard everyone's working. I see the teachers who are getting the kids out of and into cars, and you've been on their feet all day doing recess duty and lunch duty and trying to, have some time to plan lessons. And, we need more hands, frankly, on our campuses and more people on our campuses helping with all of those things so our teachers can have a little more time. So every little bit counts. I know it's 170,000, but that is significant still. So I'd like to see us move the complete amount over of district assistance DAA that we can possibly do every year, so we can put that money into the classrooms.
So some of my thoughts on that is I have been holding on to that, knowing that that is a possibility to transfer. If we were to transfer it now, we wouldn't actually be able to really use it. It would go against this like delta that we're against right now. And so also knowing that there's some other things coming. So if we were to transfer it now, we can't really do anything with, if you're thinking about using it for like compensation or salaries for exempt level staff, right? Salary contracted staff. Once you're issued that contract, oftentimes you're not able to go back once the year has started and work has began. You have to be very careful with mid-year raises because of gift of funds. Like you've committed to, I agree to do this work for this amount, and now you're saying it, and so we have to be very careful with that. The exception to that is hourly employees, and we still have a minimum wage trigger coming up in January. And so while we did do a 2% increase across all of our employee groups, that came out of budget committee and went into effect on July 1. I'm waiting. Minimum wage is going to be dropping here next month. And so we're going to know then how far are we off from that? Are we still above minimum wage in the new threshold? Or are we going to need to put some more money to that on January 1 for hourly staff? And so we won't know what that minimum wage increase is till next month. And so I've kind of been holding on to that too, knowing that that's coming. And that's another like pot we can go to when we need more. Especially now that we're in decline. So that's one thought. The other thought, and I think I shared previously, is we do not have as much flexibility in the way that our override voter information pamphlets were worded to be able to necessarily use it for all of the things that we currently use the district digital assistance funds for. So I'm actually working with our Gus Rosenfeld and Stiefel at the moment as we're preparing for the upcoming next bond sale for fall. And so I've asked them that question to like, okay, while you're working on this, help me dig into this and see what that flexibility looks like. If we were to move it, is there enough flexibility there to use it for some of those other things? Because the voter information pamphlet is very, very clear about instructional versus non-instructional use of those override funds. And those override funds would be what we would be using to supplement fully shifting our state capital dollars into M&O. And so I wanna make sure that we have the right flexibility there first, and we're not gonna get into any legal trouble by utilizing our override differently. And so I just want to make sure my interpretation of those voter information pamphlets are correct the way that Gus, our election counsel, interprets them as well.
Okay, I'd be interested to hear. I mean, a lot of us went door to door talking about that. From what I remember, the information gave us a lot of flexibility, but I'd be interested to see that. But kind of totally understand not being able to change wages mid-year and all of that kind of stuff. But $170,000, maybe we can get some on every campus, get a person, extra set of hands that kind of a helper to help with some of these additional duties to free up some of our teachers. That's kind of, maybe that's a wish, but I think even another set of hands on every campus can help free up our teachers.
I would definitely agree that that's probably a wish and a year of decline. When you're in a declining enrollment situation, we are going to be dealing with this reduce of the choice that we're making not to make cuts right now because of current year funding and to use the carry forward from prior year. We don't have that, like we build up that carryover throughout the year, right? Like we don't have 100, like every year we're not saying, okay, we have 1.5 million or 1.8 million of unallocated expenditures to then build upon. If that was the case, we would be building that and adding to our carryover forward every year, and that carry forward would be growing, right? It would then be, okay, now it's 3 million, now it's 4.5, now it's 7, now it's 8. We're not doing that. So that carry forward is treated as one-time dollars until we save it up again. And so we have to have actual realized savings this year through the next 11 months that we don't have yet. And so I would really discourage from adding new positions in a year of decline when budget committee's process this spring is really gonna be about now we don't have some of as much actualized savings that we usually do to work with in the budget committee season because we're tapping into such a heavy amount of that carry forward now to cover contracts that have already been issued. So that would just be my recommendation, but I hear you. All hands, we would love to be able to staff the way that the needs are out there, but it's gotta be within the budget.
And that's part of my intentions with my updates to the board is keeping you aware of those actualized savings as they're coming in and how we're how we're applying that towards these deficits. But the one thing that we know, two things that we know for sure, maybe more than two, I'll just speak them. We know that we're down students. Being down that many students means we are overstaffed. And it also means that we've got to be thinking about how we're going to account for that because we're consciously making the decision that we're not going to meet that through a RIF process.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for all the information. Do we have a motion for this item?
I move to approve the revision to the 25-26 school district expenditure budget.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much again. All right, next item on the agenda is the election of governing board clerk. And so I know that, unfortunately, board member Greenberg had to move out of state. And so now we get to elect a new one. And so
Yeah, and it says election of president and clerk, but you're not moving. You're staying. It's
I'm
just the
not
clerk.
leaving, okay? You can't take this away from me right now. I would like to remind me, we nominate.
Yeah,
and-
so the process is we first open up for nominations. You can say a name, that person either accepts or declines the nomination, and then it remains open for any further nominations. Once all nominations are in, that's closed, and then we can, if we have more than one name, then we'll go in the order of the names given, and we'll do a vote on members. So let's just start by opening up the nominations.
Perfect. I would like to nominate board member Ford for the governing board clerk position.
Second.
You have to wait till she accepts.
Sorry, I just got excited.
I accept.
All right, any other
Second.
nominations? Can you turn his mic off, please? Any other nominations? All right, so now that it's closed.
Yeah, nominations are closed, so now let's have we can have a motion
All
on
right, now that
elect-
we have a motion for governing board member Ford to be the next board clerk.
Second.
You got to make the motion
You have
first.
to make the motion.
Oh, I got to make the motion. I thought you just did. I motion to appoint board member Ford as the new clerk.
Second.
There we go.
Now that it's been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Hearing opposed? All right. Hearing no opposition, motion carries. Welcome. Welcome.
Do we have it? Do we have it? Can we do it?
Oh.
All right.
All right. As we make that super official, we'll move on to the next action item, which is approval of delegate and alternate as discussed to represent Osborne School District at the Arizona School Boards Association Delegate Assembly on September 6th.
Yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. So
Okay,
we,
perfect.
the delegate assembly happens, and so we need to appoint a delegate and an alternate, and I think there's a virtual option. Is that just for the alternate or for both?
No, I believe it's for both.
Okay.
Yeah. I know I already have something on my calendar that day as well as.
As do I.
Yeah.
I would like to nominate Board Member Thompson then as the delegate.
I'll second.
I'm excited for it. So
All right.
yeah,
It's
It's a great
I
event.
want to do it.
It's a great event.
All right, perfect. So we have a motion for the nomination of Board Member Thompson, and it's been seconded as well. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
So everybody's busy, so that makes you the alternate as well.
I understand.
We're counting on you.
You got this.
Okay. Would you
You're
be
gonna be in
attending in
person,
person?
right?
That's the plan, yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's been decided. Thank you so much for stepping up to that. All right. Approval. Next action item is approval of Arizona School
Let it
Board.
be noted, he didn't have a chance to step up for it before he was voluntold. He accepted it. He would have stepped up, but he didn't get the chance.
Well, I'm grateful that you didn't have anything on your calendar that day. All right. Approval of Arizona School Boards Association's proposed 2026 political agenda and direct the district's delegate to the ASBA Delegate Assembly to represent the board's determined position. Do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Next agenda item is the approval and second review of the ASBA policy revisions to the following policies. So there was a lot of reading for those. Do we have a motion for this?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. We will move on to our board development work. So it's been a minute since we've had the chance to do a book study. And so we, Dr. Robert and I were talking about, for us it's extremely important that just as, we want professional development for teachers, we also want it for ourselves. And this is a pretty simple way of being able to all study something and discuss it. And so the book that I chose was Why School Boards Fail, How Yours Can Become Effective, Great on Their Behalf. And so we read the first part, and so we do have just some questions to ask. There was a section on the first part of the book that talked about the type of the classifications for different boards. And so a founder board, contribution focused, a patronage focused board, or an outcomes focused board. So first question here is how would you all classify our board? And then any other comments you might want to share.
I didn't think, for those first three, I didn't think it fit us. But I can't say that it was 100% on the student outcome focused either when I'm looking at it. It was more by default that was maybe the closest because we just weren't, no one's a founder here of a school. But yeah, so I think that's something that would be interesting to have more of that student focus or student output or student outcome on there. So yeah, it kind of made me think going through every agenda item. All right, well, what is that? our staff input, or is that the student outcome? So I thought that was pretty good.
It was really interesting after after going through those 4 different types: founder, contributor, patronage, outcomes focused. I looked at it and it was very clear that the first 3 weren't us. But in terms of the outcomes focused, I think that we are outcomes interested, but not necessarily the laser focus and that later chapters take you through. But there was an interesting sentence afterwards that I'm curious of what your input on it. It says, sometimes a governing body may not demonstrate any of the aforementioned characteristics sufficiently enough to characterize as any of these 4 types. In the cases where this is true, it generally suggests that the organization is entirely unmoored. And I don't necessarily find that to be the truth. So I think, Eric, your analysis of that was spot on, but I don't necessarily agree with if then. If it doesn't fit this, then you're that. Just kind of leaves us needing to read and work towards.
Well, I thought it was more of, if you don't have those goals, and they talked a lot about the SMART goals and have it on there. And so it's kind of, I took it, I definitely underlined that part because I didn't feel like we were unmoored, but on the other hand, what are we measuring to? What do we say, oh, that's a success or that's a failure or we need to work on that? And I don't know that we have those goals necessarily set up. So from that side, you can say maybe not unmoored, but I don't want to say going through the motions either, but when we're doing things in a hope that it works without the target and the goal, and I think that's kind of what it's getting at. If you just do that without actually having that goal, how do you know you're succeeding or not?
Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's part I underlined as well, the disqualifying characteristics under outcomes focused. I think that's what I would like us to be. I think we've talked about it before in terms of strategic plan, SMART goals. If you review the current/prior strategic plan, I think there's room to for us now to have SMART goals. And the sentence that really kind of stuck out to me here in our reading was, if the organization has not adopted outcomes-oriented SMART goals and then invested at least 50% of the governing body's time during meetings into progress monitoring and governing body, is probably not outcomes focused. I think that's where I'd like to do, as we adopt a new strategic plan, is to have a lot of SMART goals, to be spending a lot of time monitoring those, how we're getting there. And I think there's a perfect time to be reading this book. The other thing is, I want to say about the reading is, great choice on the book. I think, just being tailored for school boards, it's a very niche audience. And school board members, it's just phenomenal you found a book that is geared exactly towards school board members and not, just more generalized education or generalized leadership. That can be helpful too, but this book really spoke to me as kind of being focused on school board members. So great choice.
There's only one sentence that in its entirety is italicized in this whole thing, and it's on page 42. Where it says, and it's just something for us to examine and think about, like how we're spending our time, where it says school systems only exist to improve student outcomes. As I listened to Mr. Carranza talk at Solano about like what our goal is, like their goal for the year, and he's broken it down and said, if you can't remember all that, our mission is students. And that's kind of like the essence of what that sentence is getting to at all of our levels, that we're about student outcomes.
Any other comments?
I'm really excited to read this book. I was lucky enough to have gone through the Listo Academy through All in Education. And so we really talked about student outcomes focused governance and how governing boards, this line from this book kind of hit me when it talks about like a lot of governing board members sit on the dais and it's basically an extension of their campaign. Well, I know that my fellow governing board members, that's not what we're doing. We have kids in these schools. We're really focused on how we can prepare our students better for their life after Osborne. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this book. I think I'm going to see a lot of threads that I learned through Listo. But at the end of the day, you know, we're parents and educators who look at report cards at the end. You know, what was my student able to accomplish? How much did they grow this year? Those are all really important. And so I think it's perfect that this book, Great Selection, is going to go hand in hand with our year of academic excellence for all of our students here in Osborne.
Yeah. So I don't know the author, but my friend does, and so he's talked a lot about just the work that they've done and the growth in the different communities. And I geek out. I know I've said this before, but I geek out on watching other school districts board meetings, which is, you know, it's like a podcast. And I've seen some of our neighboring school districts who have adopted that student outcome focused governance, and just the laser focus on these student outcomes. And so they create these SMART goals and have a timeline. And so I wanted to learn more about it, which is why I chose this book. I actually had bought it before I chose it so I could start reading it, so I could see if it would be a good suggestion. So mine's a little beat up compared to the others. But I do find it really interesting to have those very specific SMART goals in terms of wanting to raise, you know, the reading proficiency and the math scores. And although I know that, you know, tests aren't everything, I do think that, you know, as we go through the book, we're going to be able to understand more about these student outcomes and how we can tailor them to our school district, just because I don't think it's a model that everybody needs to follow in one way. I think at Osborne, we are a unique community. And I'm really curious to read more and learn more about this framework.
And you know, it's also really good timing because we haven't had our board retreat that we normally do in September. So I think as you and I get together, number one, as we choose a date, but also as we get together and plan out the agenda. Questions 2 and 3 on there. Maybe we don't go through the time tonight, but you know, thinking about how the board selects goals and creates meeting agendas, that could be a topic for us to discuss. And certainly that last question about what are current impediments to the board. I'm very interested. I mean, if you'd love to share it now, that's fantastic. But also during that time, thinking about what are the impediments to the board being more focused on student outcomes and how can we change that, you know, because a big part of it is what we as an administrative team provide to you, and also how we go about collaboratively setting an agenda for the board to come together. You know, on that retreat, I'm excited to share our teaching and learning goals, you know, and the SMART goals that were written. They're exactly the type of thing that you're talking about, you know, being excited about. I'm really excited about the way we're gearing our administrative team's goals. And one thing that we've done in the past too is written board goals, I think when you started on the board, Ed, we collaboratively wrote board and superintendent goals, so that we were working on the same types of things, but here are the actions that you're doing as board members, and here are the actions that I'm doing. And maybe we can use some of those administrative team goals that we've had to start shaping that.
Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you. We'll decide afterwards how many more chapters to read for the next meeting.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. So I think that was now reflection. We move on to reflections. So we'll start with Board Member Thompson.
All right. Thank you, President Ramos. I wrote down some things from today, and first, I was really struck by how many Arizona teacher residency employees we have now. Like that program seems to be doing a really good job of making sure that we're getting a good pipeline of qualified staff into our classroom. So that seems to be a pretty good success that I'm pretty happy about. Really happy on the low turnover at OMS. I think she said there were just 2 kind of transfers within the district. Like it wasn't even new. So I know in middle school that is a challenge. So to have that low of turnover is a pretty good thing. I think the stability should probably be really good. And then it's just appreciative of OEA coming out and making your voice heard for the meeting. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Clerk Ford.
Thank you, President Ramos. I want to second thanking the Osborne Education Association for coming out. I am a fellow NEA and AEA member, and I just wanted to thank you for coming. I think that it takes a lot of courage to get up to the podium as an employee and talk about what's not working well. You know, our district is not perfect. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I'm thankful for teachers and staff who are willing to make those changes and willing to work hard and willing to express your opinion and let us know how things are happening. And so thank you for your courage. Thank you for standing up for your colleagues. It's really important that you're here. I hope that we have a standing report from OEA every month. I really would like to see that connection between the governing board and OEA on a monthly basis. I want to hear the updates. I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear what's going well. And then I wanted to just talk about the STEM camp. Miss Callison, thank you so much for all your hard work and dedication to get that STEM camp off the ground. I was lucky enough, I was able to sign my son up for it, and his first response was, I don't want to go to science camp. And I said, I don't care, I signed you up. And he had such a blast. Forensic Investigator Wednesday was probably the highlight. He got to dust for fingerprints, which was super cool. He came home with a unicorn that had a cast on it during Veterinarian Day, and he came home with a seismograph. He came home with a seismograph to our house. And I'm like, baby, we don't really use those here. We don't need them, thankfully. So what an incredible experience for our students. I would love to see the STEM camp continue, especially because not only was it free for our families, but for out-of-district kids as well. I remember seeing pictures and I'm like, I know that student doesn't go to Osborne, but I think it's also a great recruiting tool so that our neighbors who might not choose Osborne now, but might choose Osborne in the future because they see the incredible things that we do here. And so I just wanted to extend my gratitude for a wonderful STEM camp. I know I don't even want to ask you the amount of hours you put into to getting that off the ground, but thank you for doing that this summer. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Hermes.
Thank you. And first reflection is congratulations to Clerk Ford and thank you for your service and stepping up. Excited about that. Also excited about, filling a vacancy here on the board and excited about that as well as bringing in some new people to the board. As well as new staff today. It's just so fun to see everybody, to see the energy that people are bringing to our district, to see especially people from the community. I was kind of struck by, I think it was Coach D.A. who lives in the community and walks the community. You see the kids in the community. That's phenomenal. I mean, that is just wonderful. The more we can keep our teachers and staff close in our community, it's a wonderful thing to just be those exemplars and seeing the students outside of class is so important. Thank you, Dr. Boyle, for letting me ask some questions and jumping on some information really quickly. Sounds like we're going to save some money from asking some tough questions, which is great. I mean, every dollar really does count in a situation like this. And so thank you so much. And thank you to OEA for coming and speaking. I love it when we have the more speakers, the better. And public comment. It is phenomenal. It is one of the most exciting things, and it's democracy truly in action. And so really appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Perfect. And for my reflection, ditto to everything my colleagues up here have said. Just really grateful for the commitment that I see from our Osborne community at all levels. And so I hear it in our community, and I know that seeing those numbers come down this year, but I know that all districts are suffering through this. And so, we'll get through it, and we're gonna come up with some creative solutions and try to just continue showcasing our wonderful school district. Perfect. And now, Dr. Robert, reflections?
Yeah, I guess just to close off, kind of where we started, my heart is with Phoenix Union. They're going to need us, and we don't know how. But it's time for all of us to be thoughtful of our neighbor, what we're part of, and the other thing that we're part of, which is public education. And continuing to stand up for public education and what we can offer, and also making sure that we're offering our local school districts. We're not competing. We're taking care of Phoenix's kids. That's our job. And so anything that we can do to be of assistance to them, we want to. And then the second way that we started our meeting was just in celebration of new staff. It was wonderful to hear their voices, or to hear you principals talking about them and the contributions that they've brought to your campuses already, just in 3 weeks of school. So we're off to a wonderful, exciting start, and I look forward to continuing that throughout this year.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now, future agenda items. We'll start with Board Member Thompson.
I think I've brought it up before, but I would like to look at scheduling the rest of the board meetings for the rest of the school year, kind of post-January, or post-December, I guess.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Clerk Ford?
Nothing from me.
All right, thank you. Board Member Hermes?
I got a few. One, I'd love to see us talk about the calendar. It was, I think, discuss it. We did something new this year. So I'd just like to check in, get feedback, have something on the agenda so we can solicit feedback from staff, solicit feedback from parents, what worked, what didn't work, what can, if anything, do we do differently, or communication-wise, or whatever. Just to like to take stock of that and just see, since we changed something, how is it going? Two, I'd love to see standing agenda item for OEA. I think that was brought up. I think it's a great idea. Three, would love us to look at, it's been a while since I've read through all of the policies, but maybe it's a good time to look at our policies. Maybe consider if we need a new policy related to anti-retaliation. I heard that brought up. Just good to just have education. What do we got out there in terms of union activity, communication related to workplace conditions and things like that. I think we have policies already in place and other things, but just love to have something on the agenda, take stock of that, education for us, and a discussion about that. I'd also like to have agenda item related to summer camps. I mean, other school districts I've seen have really consistent and robust summer camps, and just keeping the community together throughout the summer, and giving more opportunities for summer camps. I loved what we did this past summer, but enshrining this, making this permanent and consistent is what families really need for that support, so they know they can count on it. One of those families is like just trying to figure it out week by week. What you gonna do? And so it is not easy. So if we can kind of maybe look at what can we do to grow it and make it more permanent, would be phenomenal, so families can rely on that. And then finally, would love to, I don't know if this is an agenda item or what, it might be, or discussion or work study session or something. I would love to develop a written, enrollment and retention plan for students. We talked about enrollment, that is the lifeblood. Love to see something developed, maybe part of the strategic plan, maybe it's a separate document, but something written down where we put in some strategies about transparency and making it easier to get into Osborne, and some strategies about how do we hang on to those kids and keep them all moving up into the higher grades. So it's quite a bit. We're not going to get through it all in one meeting, but those are the future agenda items I'd love to see.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, I have none since they've already been added, so that's perfect. And with that, we are done with our meeting. So I will adjourn at 7:50. Thank you, everyone.